Zainab! 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 Zainab!
Nobody in Okuru village ever trusted Amina, even before the girl disappeared. Amina was a gentle woman, the kind that greeted everyone first and smiled even when her heart was tired. She was in her early 40s, soft-spoken, always dressed neatly, her wrapper clean even on busy days. But one thing followed her everywhere like a shadow. She had never given birth to a child of her own. No matter how many herbs she drank, no matter how many prayers she said, her womb stayed silent. People whispered behind her back. "She's too calm for a woman with no child," some said. Others shook their heads and lowered their voices. "Did you hear? Her first husband died suddenly." Another would add, "And Musa's first wife died too." 2 deaths. Same woman. But none of those stories were true. Musa, her husband, was a widower when he met her. A tired man with sad eyes and one small daughter clinging to his legs. He had lost his first wife to sickness, and since then, the house felt empty. He did not search for beauty. He searched for peace. And he said he saw it in Amina the first day she served him water and spoke kindly to his child. "I don't just need a wife," Musa had told his brother one evening. "I need a woman who will love my daughter when I'm gone." And Amina did. The girl's name was Zainab. Zainab was 12 years old, quiet but warm, with eyes that noticed everything. From the day Amina entered that house, she never treated Zainab like a stranger. She braided her hair, checked her school books, and saved the biggest piece of fish for her. At night, when the girl had bad dreams, Amina pulled her close and whispered, "You are not alone. I am here." Mama Sadia, one of their neighbor, once asked her, "Why are you killing yourself for another woman's child?" Amina smiled sadly. "Because love does not need blood." After Musa died suddenly from a short illness, the village changed toward her. The greetings reduced. The smiles disappeared. Every kindness she showed Zainab was watched closely, like people were waiting for her to fail. Then came that morning. The sun had just risen, and the floor was still cold. Amina stood in the kitchen, stirring soup when she called out gently, "Zainab, my daughter." "Yes, Mama," Zainab answered, rushing in. Amina handed her a basket. "Please go to Nkwo market. Buy tomatoes and dry fish. Take the main road. I will be waiting." Zainab smiled. "I won't be long." As the girl walked out, Mama Sadia, who was sweeping nearby, paused. "You're sending her alone?" she asked. Amina nodded. "She is growing, and she knows the way." Zainab waved once, adjusted the basket on her head, and walked toward the road. For a long while, Amina stayed where she was, listening until the sound of the girl's steps faded. The soup continued to cook. The house stayed quiet. After some time, Amina checked the pot and smiled to herself. "She'll soon be back," she whispered. She sat down. She waited. The sun moved higher in the sky. Amina stood up, went outside, and looked down the road once. She saw nothing. She might stop to greet someone, she said aloud. She went back inside. Later, she stepped out again. This time, her smile was gone. She shaded her eyes with her hand, scanning the road. Nothing. A small fear touched her chest. She waited a little longer, then a little more. By the time shadows began to stretch on the ground, Amina's hands were no longer steady. She walked to the gate again, her heart beating faster than before. "Zainab," she called softly. Then louder, "Zainab." Only silence answered. That was the moment fear sat beside her. Not panic yet, just fear. At first, Amina told herself to stay calm. "She is a good child," she whispered, pacing slowly across the compound. "She knows the way." She walked to the road again, this time standing longer. Her wrapper brushed the dust as the evening breeze touched her skin. Children passed by, laughing, carrying firewood, returning home one by one. Every time she heard footsteps, her heart jumped. But none of those footsteps belonged to Zainab. Amina stopped one small boy and asked gently, "My son, did you see a girl with a basket on her head? She is about this tall." The boy shook his head. No, Mama. She forced a smile. Thank you. Go home. As the sun slowly bent toward the sky, fear began to speak louder inside her. Not shouting, just whispering. The kind of whisper that makes your chest tight. She walked to Mama Sadia's house. Sister, Amina said, trying to keep her voice steady, have you seen Zainab pass here? Mama Sadia paused. Her broom stopped moving. She hasn't returned yet? Amina shook her head. Mama Sadia clicked her tongue slowly. Children of these days, maybe she followed her friends. Amina nodded, but her eyes were not calm. Zainab never followed friends without permission. Never. As she turned to leave, she heard another woman murmur behind her, not loud enough to be kind, not soft enough to be secret. She sent her early alone. Amina heard it. She pretended she didn't. She went back home and uncovered the pot. The soup had cooled. She touched it with her finger and pulled back quickly, like it had burned her. Zainab should have eaten by now, she said to herself. She sat on the wooden bench, stood up again, sat down. Her foot tapped the ground without her noticing. Then she remembered something small, something that didn't feel important earlier. That morning, when Zainab took the basket, she had hesitated. Just for a breath. Not fear. Not disobedience. Just hesitation. Amina pressed her palm against her chest. Why didn't I ask her what was wrong? She whispered. Night began to crawl in slowly. Lamps started to glow in other houses. Voices softened. The village settled. Zainab was still not home. That was when Amina stepped outside again and raised her voice. Zainab. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat and tried again. Zainab, my daughter. People began to look. One man stopped and said, Is she not back from the market? Another woman replied before Amina could speak. She's been gone since morning. Silence fell between them. Heavy silence. Then someone said it, not as a question, as a statement. Kîlled market closed long ago. Amina felt her legs weaken. No, she said quickly. She must be with someone. She will come. But even as she spoke, her mind returned to something Mama Sadia had said earlier that day. You're sending her alone? Amina's heart sank deeper. And somewhere near the old forest path, a woman's voice was heard telling another. I saw the girl this morning, but she wasn't walking toward the market. Amina did not hear this yet. That night, Amina could not sleep. She sat on the mat with her back against the wall, listening to every sound outside, the cry of insects, the distant bark of a dog, the soft footsteps of people returning late. Each sound made her lift her head. Zainab, she whispered many times, as if the girl could hear her through the dark. When morning came, Amina was already outside. Her eyes were swollen. Her voice was low, but her steps were firm. She went from house to house, greeting people politely, even when her heart was shaking.
Good morning, she said.
Please, did you see my daughter yesterday? Some shook their heads. Some avoided her eyes. One woman said softly, I saw her in the morning. She greeted me. Another added, Yes, she was carrying a basket. Amina nodded quickly. Did you see where she went after? The woman hesitated. I thought she was going to the market, she replied slowly. That word, thought, cut Amina deeply. She moved on. At the well, she met two young girls fetching water. My daughters, Amina said gently. Did Zainab talk to you yesterday? One girl looked at the other before answering. She asked us what time it was. What else? Amina pressed. She asked if anyone had passed through the old path. Amina froze. The old path, she repeated. The girls nodded. Yes, Mama. The one near the forest. Amina felt her throat tighten. That path does not lead to Kîlled market, she whispered to herself. As she turned away, she heard murmurs rising behind her, like flies gathering. She asked about the forest. Why would a child go there? Haven't we been saying it? By midday, men gathered under the big mango tree. Women stood at a distance, hands folded, eyes sharp. Amina stood alone in the middle. Another voice followed, rough and careless. Every time someone disappears, it is around her. Amina's head snapped up. What do you mean? A woman folded her arms. Your first husband died. Musa died. Now the child is missing. Amina's chest burned. That is a lie, she said, her voice shaking but strong. I loved that child. Someone laughed bitterly. That's what they all say. The men began to walk toward the forest, carrying sticks and lanterns. Amina followed them. Please, she begged. She is my daughter. No one answered. As they reached the edge of the old path, one man stopped suddenly.
Look, he said.
There, on the dusty ground, was a single torn slipper.
Small. Worn.
Familiar. Amina dropped to her knees. That is Zainab's, she cried, clutching it to her chest. That is her slipper. The forest stood quiet.
Too quiet.
And for the first time, a thought entered Amina's heart. What if Zainab did not get lost? Maybe she was kidnapped. The forest search ended quietly that evening. No scream. No body. No sign of struggle. Just silence and that single slipper in Amina's hands. By the next morning, the story had grown bigger than the truth. Men gathered again, this time not under the mango tree, but in front of the village square. The village elders sat on wooden stools, their faces hard, their walking sticks resting across their laps. Chief Lawal, the oldest among them, cleared his throat. This matter has passed fear, he said slowly. It has entered shame. Amina stood before them, barefoot, her wrapper loosely tied. She had not slept. Her eyes were red, but she stood straight. Chief Lawal looked at her. You are the last person who saw the child. Yes, Amina replied softly. Because she lived with me. Another elder leaned forward. And you sent her alone. Yes, she said again. Like I have done many times. A murmur spread through the crowd. A man shouted from behind. You also sent your first husband to an early grave. Amina flinched. That is not true, she said, her voice trembling now. I begged Musa to go to the hospital. Chief Lawal raised his hand. Enough. He turned to the messenger standing beside him. Send word to the police post in the next town. Those words fell like stones. Amina's knees weakened. Police? That afternoon, 2 officers arrived on a motorcycle. Dust covered their boots. One of them opened a small notebook. Madam, he said, not unkindly, tell us everything from the beginning. Amina spoke slowly. About the market, the basket, the smile, the wave. Her voice broke when she reached the waiting part. I loved her, she said quietly. God knows. The officer wrote something down. Another officer asked, Did the child ever complain? Did she fear you? Amina shook her head quickly. Never. She slept beside me. A woman in the crowd laughed sharply. Children don't complain when they are threatened. Amina turned. Threatened by who? She asked. No one answered. The officers exchanged looks. Then one elder said something that made the crowd lean forward. There have been stories, he said carefully, of people sending others on journeys that never end. Amina felt like the ground moved beneath her. So you believe I sent her to disappear? She asked. Chief Lawal did not answer immediately. We believe, he said slowly, that too many things happen around you. That night, Amina was told not to leave the village. Just until we understand things, the officer said. As they walked away, Amina sat alone on the ground, hugging Zainab's slipper to her chest. I should have followed you, she whispered. I should have asked you why you hesitated. Behind her, 2 women spoke in low voices. They say the girl was seen talking to a stranger days before. Yes, a woman. Amina's head lifted slowly. A woman? Her heart beat faster. The police returned 2 days later. This time, they did not come to ask questions. They came with handcuffs. Amina was sitting in her room, staring at the wall, when an officer stepped in quietly. Madam, he said, not meeting her eyes, you will come with us for further questioning. The crowd outside did not hide their relief. So it's true, someone whispered. I told you, another replied. A woman like that cannot be clean. Amina did not shout. She did not fight. She only looked once at Zainab's small sleeping mat before standing up. "I will follow you," she said calmly. "But I did not harm my child." At the station, questions fell on her like rain. Why did you send her alone? Why did she ask about the forest? Why does death follow you? Amina answered until her voice grew weak. "I loved her," she repeated again and again. "Check anywhere. Check everything." One officer listened more than he spoke. His name was Officer Danjuma. He noticed something others ignored. Every story pointed to Amina, but every small detail pointed away from her. "She raised the alarm too early," he said quietly to his partner. "A guilty person hides." She searched. With the help of 2 villagers, Maman Kechi and a young hunter who knew the forest paths, Officer Danjuma began asking different questions. Who was the last person to see the child clearly? Who lived closest to the old path? One name kept appearing. Mama Sadia. The same woman who asked that morning, "You're sending her alone?" The same woman who first whispered doubt into the village. When the police searched Mama Sadia's compound, she laughed loudly. "You people are chasing shadows," she said. "The forest swallowed that girl." But the forest does not leave footprints inside a house. Behind her kitchen, under old mats and charms, they found a hidden door. Inside, the air smelled heavy. Candles burned low, and in the corner, weak but breathing,
Zainab.
the girl cried out when she saw the uniform. "Mama!" she screamed, her voice shaking. Mama Sadia fell to the ground. She confessed before anyone asked. "I needed power," she cried. A child with no living mother, she was the key. The village went silent. Amina was released that same evening. When Zainab ran into her arms, Amina held her so tight people feared she would break. "I am here," she whispered again and again. "I did not leave you." The forest did not swallow the child. A neighbor did. And the woman everyone blamed was the one who never stopped loving. Sometimes, the real danger is not the forest ahead, but the smiling face beside us.